Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I'm your host. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Cam Freeden from Peninsula Stonemasons. Cam's been a stonemason for more than 40 years, starting his apprenticeship back in 1977. So he's got an incredible amount of knowledge, and it's fascinating hearing how he started. And I was particularly interested to see what the tool changes had been like compared to now from back in 1977 when he started. So I, as a construction person, I absolutely love having this chat with him. And we go pretty deep into some tool talk in it. And it was also fascinating hearing again how quite often people who are passionate about their job had that passion develop quite early. And he talks about when he was 13, what he wanted for his birthday was to be able to join a rock club because he liked collecting gemstones. So it was great hearing that. Now he's been able to carry that passion he had as a kid through to his career. And much like landscaping, he talks about how physically hard it is being a stonemason. So while it is hard, it's also rewarding. And if you can find employees who can see that, you know that you're going to be able to have someone working for you for a long period of time who'll equally enjoy what they're doing. And we also talk about the eye for detail that you need to be a stonemason, or a lot of roles within landscaping, and how when I teach my guys early in their apprenticeship days, I'd teach them to do things that another landscaper would notice. So as Cam said, you've got to impress your peers, because if you're doing that, and then the client, if they notice it, they'll be impressed as well. There's heaps of cool topics we cover in this chat with Cam, particularly if you enjoy construction, but I'm pretty sure there'll be something for everyone here. So hopefully you enjoy this chat with Cam Freeden. Cam, thank you very much for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. My first question for you is, how did you start in the industry?
How did I start? I started with an interest in stone long before I got into the industry. When I was 13, I'm sort of half Jewish. My father was Jewish, but that doesn't technically make me Jewish. But
I'm the same.
Are you half Jewish? Are you father?
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, you've got that kind of that sort of you're connected, but kind of not really allowed to be in the club. But he said to me when I was 13, bless him, he said, "Do you want a bar mitzvah?" And I said, "No, not really, but thanks." And he said, "Well, what would you like? It's a pretty important time of your life. You're turning 13, like you're a man now. What would you like?" And I said, I collected gemstones as a kid. And I said, I wouldn't mind joining like a rock club. And he's like, "Okay, I'll try and find a rock club." And to his credit, he actually found a club of absolute anoraks that went out every weekend collecting gemstones. And he joined me up in the Beaumaris Rockhound Society, and as father and son, we sort of went out for my early teen years, looking for fossicking, as I call it, for gemstones. And then when it came time to find a career, my mother said, "What do you want to do?" And I was a bit of a romantic kid, and I said, but an outdoorsy kid, I said, I really wouldn't mind. I love castles. I was fascinated with castles. I said, "I want to build castles." And she said, that's great. We don't have any, though. We have churches. We just don't have castles. And I said, "Well, I want to build churches." And that led to stonemasonry. And at age 17, 1977, 40 odd years ago now, I fronted up to a place in Springvale, a huge place which did commercial stonemasonry amongst a lot of other things, Moloko Brothers, and got a job there as an apprentice. And we were taught by, it was the first year that stonemasonry came back online since the war years in terms of a proper apprenticeship. I think the first year it kicked off was 78, and that was run by the Clerk of Works, which was the Clerk of Works historically has been a really, really well-informed individual that looks after all of the really technical stuff in terms of building projects in a city. And he kicked the whole program off. And it has since, been sort of, blended into the whole TAFE experience now. But when we first started, it was the Clerk of Works from the Public Works, and we were just, stone carving and, doing a bunch of different sort of things. But it was the version 2 of stonemasonry in Australia.
So do you like watching Grand Designs when they redo the castles on that?
Oh, I never think the Masons get enough of a go. I'm always, I think they get sort of short shrift a lot. But I love Grand Designs. I've loved watching, all of those shows. I've sort of loved the Australian, version of it. But my life, and I'm assuming yours to an extent as well, really is Grand Designs. Every project we do to some extent or another is like a Grand Designs episode. So in the end, I'm like, I don't think I want to watch Grand Designs anymore. It's just like too much of that sort of, I'm living it, I'm working it, and I'm coming home and I'm watching it, So
yeah, I love what I do, so I can't get enough of it, which is pretty fortunate. So I love those shows when they're doing my work.
Yeah. Look, it's great. Kevin MacLeod really kicked that whole thing off. He's a legend. I love his little vignettes to the camera where he's honest about what they're really like. I love that.
So, what sort of tools are you using to start off when you were carving the stone?
Oh God, tools are a big thing. It's kind of like how long you got.
Yeah.
Tools are just another word for technology, and technology is a huge part of what if it's labor saving, and it's not just about helping you make a profit. It's about helping save labor, and it's about doing a better job, and it's about not breaking your body. And there's so much technology out there that can help with that. But when I first started off, not much. Masons got by. I mean, the apprenticeship I did was a hammer and chisel apprenticeship. It was pitching stone, punching stone, and that was just I was taught by old school, hardcore Spanish stonemasons. It was really tough. It was a lot of skin off the knuckles. So back then, it was all cold chisels. It wasn't, carbide wasn't really a thing. It's since become a huge thing. But back then, we had our pitching tools, a 2-inch pitching tool. You needed a punch. You needed a blacksmith. We had a blacksmith to sharpen your tools because they all had to be refired and retempered. Carbide put an end to that. Tungsten put an end to that. You just, the chisels just kind of last forever. You get a green stone and you're off to the races. So, but in the beginning, hammers, chisels, angle grinders back then were these huge, we used big. Now it's like 9-inch grinders. Back then they weighed 3 times as much. It was a thing called an Ackerman Schmidt, this massive cast iron thing with the paper blades, the non-diamond blades. So deadly bit of equipment. But that was it. And like now it's a lot different. Now there's just my pallet racking is filled with stuff. So a lot different to 1978 for me.
So how long did you finish your apprenticeship with that company?
Finished my apprenticeship with those guys. Put an ad in the paper. Actually, I had a one experience in my apprenticeship. This guy used to come into the stone yard with he had a slouch hat on. He had an Australian cattle dog hanging out the back of a Chevy truck. And he came in once every few months to collect stone. And I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I'm a freelance stonemason. I build stone houses around Victoria." And I just went, I didn't understand. What do you do? And he said, "Look, I build stone houses." And and that was all I really found out. But it was such a romantic notion to me that this guy could travel around building stone houses around Victoria. It seemed like, to a 17-year-old, it seemed like the ultimate adventure. So when I finished my apprenticeship, I put an ad in the paper saying that, are there any stone house builders out there that are looking for a keen young man? And instead of any stonemasons calling, I got a family that had been building a stone house for like 6 or 7 years on the weekends, and they were completely over it. And they rang and they said, "Can you come and finish it? We'll show you what we've been doing." And I'm like, "Sure." And I did that, and I spent about 6 months with this family that's struggling through, building out of the local ironstone from, the Dandenong Ranges. And It was just brutal, and I didn't know what I was doing at all. But when I was finished, I put an ad in the paper again saying experienced stonemason now available for his next project. And then I was sort of out of the blocks, if you like.
Yeah, awesome. So then you started your business from there.
I started my business from there, and I think I spent the first 10 years thinking I knew everything and making endless mistakes. But it's only really when you end up working with a bunch of different people over the years. I mean, my second job was building a stone house in Upwey in the Dandenongs, and they'd done a site cut. When they did the site cut, literally hundreds of tons of stone had gone down the hill. And when I turned up there, they said, can you build a house out of this? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course I can. I had no idea what I was doing, but I said yes. And I spent the next 4 weeks just dragging stone in winter in the Dandenongs to the top of the hill, making piles of rock. And then I had sprinklers running 24 hours a day to wash the clay off. And then ended up building this place. And it was just a series of working with different people over the years, learning, putting the skill sets together, over decades. Yeah.
And how was it when you were when you find a new stone to work with and learn where it breaks and how to use it? Was there a big learning curve on that?
There is. One of the analogies that I've used with the boys, and I've taught a bunch of young fellows over the years, but a really good way to explain stonemasonry, and I'm sure there's a bunch of analogs with landscaping as well, is they're like languages. And if you go to New Guinea, you'll go into the hills of New Guinea, and I've read that you can literally cross a mountain, and the tribe across the other side of the mountain don't even speak the language of the tribe on the other side of the mountain, the indigenous sort of group. So stonemasonry is really similar to that. You work with the indigenous stone type. You learn a lot of the skill sets. You learn the geology. You learn where the stone is available, the different outlets for it. You work with it. You get used to it. The architects, the designers, the builders, they're working with that stone type from that region, and you put all of the skill sets together around that stone type. Then you go over the hill, and there's a bunch of new stone types, and you've got to start again. It's just that's why just about every stonemason you come across has this deep-seated insecurity, because we're all just so aware of how daunting and overwhelming the craft is. It's just endless.
Yeah, that is crazy when you think of the amount of stone, and then especially when stone starts getting imported, just adds to it as well.
Yeah, well, it does. It does. It adds to it. It's a double-edged sword, the imported stone, and you would find that as well with all the quote unquote stuck on stone. But there's pluses and minuses with that. We like to think of, I was too snobbish to work with that in the beginning, but until I realised that it actually does have a place in the industry, that people do have limitations with what they can afford. They do have limitations with how much room they have, with the space of the cladding zone and so on. And there's spaces in the market for it. It's a really important part of the industry, and we do a fair bit of it now.
Well, I think it's fair to be snobbish, because even I lay the veneer stone, but I refer to the normal stone cladding as real stone cladding, because not cladding, but real stone masonry, because that's just the stuff.
You know what? They're kind of both real, and that's the thing that I had to get my head around. It's just that one's a lot thinner. The veneered stuck-on stuff has the two main advantages. It has a space advantage. It's 40 mil and not 200 mil, and it has a structural advantage. So it doesn't need a foundation. So it just goes on to any kind of reasonable substrate like compressed sheet or blockwork or whatever. So you can't look away from so many structures in the landscape environment, and just generally wouldn't have stone if it weren't for the ability to do that. And it just gives people textures and beautiful, adds beauty to their project that they wouldn't have been able to have otherwise.
Yeah. So when did you put on your first full-time employee? I assume you probably started with some labourers or something.
That's interesting, actually, because the first guy I ever put on was because I worked one up for quite a while, as we all do in the beginning, and I was so desperately lonely that because I was just on my own doing stone houses, going mad.
Yeah.
Pouring into, this is my life? Is this what I'm doing now? I'm hitting rocks with a hammer for the rest of my life. And I put someone on for conversation and to help me. And he quit by 9 a.m. And, and I don't think it was me. I think it was the work. It was a job. He was like, I'm like, I understand. You got to go, man. I get it. And then another chap started, and in the end, I found the best way was to have an apprentice. That way, they're tethered to you. They're wedded to you. They're invested in. You're invested in each other, and you develop this father-son, older brother, younger brother, whatever you want to call it, relationship. And that worked really well for me, that knowledge sharing, sort of mentoring of these young guys, not just in stonemasonry, but, in how to be, an honourable young person. And that is a really big part of stonemasonry. Integrity of the individual translates into integrity of the stonework. And I'm sure it's the same with landscaping, but if you're an F-wit, you're going to see it in the stonework, because you take shortcuts. You're like, I'll just squeak that in. No one will really notice that.
Yeah,
and it comes through. You do see it. So a lot of that. So like 14 apprentices later, 9 apprentices of the year. It's been a journey, man. But and a young man now who's a wonderful young chap, the hardest working young fella I think I've ever had, almost non-verbal, doesn't speak, and just works and smiles, and is in 3 years I've never beaten him to work. So
yeah, that's awesome. And like when you were talking about how you learned from the Spanish stonemasons at the start, my first reaction was hoping that you're training people and passing on that what you would have learned as well. It's obviously going to be a lot different, but
I like to think I'm not as hard as those guys. Yeah, they were a bit brutal with me. I got the old, like that, the classic old, can you duck over and grab a can of striped paint? Hardware saw that. I fell for that 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I would have as well.
Yeah. No, I don't think you would have gone for a can of chisel sharpener, which I did.
I definitely would have. Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing at the start. But I would have tried to. I would have been too proud to. Like, I would have gone and got something and said, "No, this is it." Like, I don't know why you think it's not. This is chisel sharpener.
Gotcha.
Like, you get if they ask for a left-handed screwdriver, I get a green one because that means it's a left-handed one. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. So apprentices you train up, they're going on and doing their own thing now as well. Like, have you seen guys being successful doing that?
Yeah. Some have gone out and haven't been that successful. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
And some have gone out and been really successful. Some. I've had one apprentice who's now he stayed, he hung around, and he's been with me 8 or 9 years now. Incredible young man, and he loves the craft. We get along really well, and he's a hugely important part of my business. I never want him to go. It's one of those guys you never want to leave.
Yep.
Obviously he will at some point, but 9 years later it's still going. But typically, stonemasonry is one of those things that it either makes you or it kills you. To walk that middle path is really difficult. You've either got to be passionate and really invested in the whole thing, because it is really, really, really hard. Mm-hmm. Psychologically, it's really tough, and physically, it's really tough. If those things aren't daunting to you and you see them as a net benefit, a net positive in your life, that these are making me a better person, they're making me a stronger individual, these are improving my life. If you've got a person that sees the world through that prism, they're going to stick with it, and they're going to see it as a gift. Other people don't see it that way. They just see it like this is too hard for me, I have to go.
Yeah, when I'm looking to employ people, I want someone who wants to be a landscaper, not someone who just wants a job, because they won't last if they just want a job. It's the same.
That's right. Yeah, it's hard though. You got to give them a run. You got to give them a run, and they got to fit in culturally too. If they're sitting there, boasting about every sexual conquest I had on the weekend or whatever. It just gets a bit old, It's just like, come on, man, you know. But
Yep.
I don't expect them all to be, down all of the, down all the rabbit holes. I'm down with, U.S. politics and whatever that I'm talking about. But still, it's the point I'm trying to make is the cultural thing is a really they've got to fit the culture as well.
Yeah.
Your culture,
Yeah. Yep.
so that there's harmony at work, so you're all getting along,
Yeah. You spend a lot of time with them, and like I say, it's a mentally challenging thing to do, the stonemasonry, because you can look, you're at a job and you're thinking you're going to be doing the same thing for months potentially.
Yeah, exactly, and they got to sign up to your work, to your sort of core values of the business, and but they've got to want to do it, they've got to want to sign up to that and not, do it as here we go, I got to wear the shirt, that sort of thing. If it's a struggle for them, it's not the best place for you,
So how many staff do you have at the moment?
Now it's little now because I've been going. There's 3 of us, like permanent, and contractors. The flexibility of contractors coming in and out. But just the core group is just 3 of us. So I've done the whole 5, 6, 7, 10, 12.
Yeah, right.
And you start asking serious questions about work-life balance and mental health and everything, and does it actually remunerate? Does it scale?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're nodding furiously.
It's an extremely similar story. So many different people say the same thing. I've spoken to blokes who have had 12 landscapers and now they're down to 3, and they make the same or more money with less than what they did when they had more.
Correct weight. But you got to go. You got to live it. And it's like, it doesn't matter. You can have some old wise guy just say, "Don't do it, man. Don't do it." But we have to do it.
Yeah.
We have to just run 14 jobs and just go, I'm urinating blood. Something's wrong.
Yeah, and like, even though, like, I've had, I think it's either 5 or 6 is the most I've had. And even though I knew that didn't work, now that I've got 3, I think if I just put on just 2 more guys, I could just make a little bit more, and it'll work. I got 2 jobs going, so it should double it, and the shed's already paid for and everything. So surely you have to make money out of it. So you start to talk yourself back into it again. So you can see why other people don't believe until they do it themselves.
Yeah, exactly. But it depends on, why are you putting men on? Like what is your business model? Mine's like my business model is a value-based business model. It's based on the values of the business, not necessarily a financial model. So if it was a financial model, I'd be trying to get as much work as I possibly could. I'd be marketing, like crazy. I'd be putting guys on. I'd be advertising. I'd be trying to grow, money. But I don't. It's like, how can we best operate as a group? How can we best serve the client? How can we best deliver what's asked of us and make the experience good for the client, the builder, the architect, us, the boys. How can I do all of those things? And you find that if you can control it, you generally find a smaller outfit you're able to deliver a much better product. Yeah,
and you've usually got a better work-life balance as well.
That's it. Yeah, that as well. Yeah. And you just, you're probably not going to get the phone call, in the middle of the night about something that's fallen down. So,
yeah.
So,
have you had any of them?
I have. Yeah, I've had stuff. It's part of the learning curve. I've had, the shit phone call.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that was just me learning. Like, oh, okay, I built that the wrong way. I had to build a brick firebox, like a brick chimney. And I remember this old school guy said, "Oh, yeah, I can build a firebox in a day." And I'm like, right, I will build a firebox in a day. So I built a firebox in a day. The supervisor came in at the end of the day and he went, "Cam, you did it." And I stood back there proudly looking at this firebox that I built. I got it right into the 9x9 gather at the top of, I built everything, the firebox, the rollback, the gather, the throat, the smoke shelf, everything. And then while we were both looking at it, this brick dropped into onto the hearth, onto the floor of the firebox. And I went, that's strange. And then another brick, and then another brick, and then the whole thing literally just caved in and collapsed. And I realised that you can't build a whole 5 blocks in a day, And anyway, that was a lesson.
Yeah, I only found out recently how I was fascinated by it, but with a fireplace like that, it's the drawer you're talking about. When you put your hand in there, you can feel the air flowing when there's nothing happening in it because it just sucks the air out.
You really can, yeah. So there's a formula. There's a fireplace. There's a fireplace method called the Rumford fireplace, and it's like a system. It's all based on the available air, the size of the room. That all informs the aperture, the depth of the firebox, the size of the throat, all that sort of thing. But some things are a given. The throat's normally, sort of a given, 90, 100 mil or whatever. And, the flue always seems to be a 99 flue, 9-inch by 9-inch internal. There's all kinds of ways to build them. But yeah, when they're built correctly, that smoke shelf serves a purpose. It stops pulses of air coming down and disrupting the fire. And they draw. You get a vortex that actually, starts drawing. It's an incredible thing to see.
Yeah. So what sort of tools are you using these days do you use those? Because we were working on a project where there were some stonemasons working on there and they were using grinding like that. That's where I only just saw that they had a flush cut grinder. So that was pretty cool. I hadn't seen them before. But they also had
flush cut. What do you mean flush cut?
So it's just a 9-inch grinder blade, but it's flat on the bottom, so you can cut perfectly flat. There's not like the nut on the end of it, so there's like a lump on the end. So
yeah. What size is the blade?
Yeah, 9-inch.
Oh, 9-inch.
Yeah,
but it's a flush cut. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. Well, now that you've touched on I was secretly hoping you'd ask me about saws. I won't lie to you, Joel.
Oh, I love them.
Yeah, but yeah. So we use 9-inch, but regular Makita Bosch 9-inch grinders. But dust is going away because of silicosis.
Yep.
If it hasn't gone already, right? Unless you're working out in the boonies, then guys use dust. But dust to stonemasons is poison. It's death. It's all things bad. So we cut wet, and if we do cut dry, I use positive. I forget the name of them, but it's like a $4,000 respirator with your head in a mask.
Yeah.
With the battery pack on the back. The Sunstrom SR 700, I think it is. But we use cordless 9-inch wet. That's probably our sort of tool du jour. That's the sort of favorite tool at the moment. So just a 54-volt DeWalt FlexVolt system, wet, but just constantly feeding batteries into it. But that's great for 30, 40 mil trimming and that sort of thing. And then a big 350 mil or 14-inch electric demos, we use those a fair bit, wet. And also big TS 800 16-inch 400 mil 100cc demos, we use those as well. Docking granite. So that's like hanging onto a dirt bike. That's cutting stones. So they're powerful, but they're great. Yeah.
Because the amount of time that's going to save as well is insane.
Yeah. Look, there's a bit of stuff going around in the industry that there's the old technology argument. Like guys have said to me online and elsewhere, that's not traditional. That's not old school. To cut, our coins, we cut our corners. And I'm like, okay, you're traditional. You're still using bronze chisels, are you? And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, well, of course, you use technology to help you, and so do we. And I'm not going to break a mason's wrists to make hundreds of coins by hand if I can cut them with a saw.
Yeah.
And what matters is the look of it. So we have to distress that cut so that you don't see that it's been cut by a saw. But no one, not even a mason, can tell that it hasn't been cut and then distressed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
the masons working on the project I was talking about, they were matching some existing barrel stone, And I don't know if they got it from Germany or just New South Wales, but wherever they got the stone from.
Matching bearable?
Yeah.
That's because you're a West Coast landscaper, aren't you?
In Geelong. So
yeah. But to me, that's West Coast. I'm East Coast. Don't worry, we can still be friends. but bearable's a West Coast stone, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that Leon Rigetti had the bearable quarry many years ago.
Right.
But that's a greenish stone. It's a greenish sandstone.
It's kind of sandy. Like it looks. Yeah, there's a tinge of it green in there, but not. But yeah, it's kind of like a typical sandstone, what you would expect, I reckon.
Okay, all right. Because I haven't. Is it still working as a sandstone quarry?
No, so that's why they had to match it.
Oh, because
they couldn't get it, so they got something different. But it looked like you couldn't tell. It looked amazing, apart from being new. But
where did they get it from?
I can't remember if it was Germany or if it was just from New South Wales. But yeah,
was it Gosford?
I don't think it was Gosford. I think it was complex to get it, but it was amazing. Like, and they're using all sorts of technology. Like they were dry cutting, but they had those backpacks as well. And then
what were they dry cutting with?
So they were using the 9-inch flush cut. So they were sort of there was some existing stuff, and they were putting a new bullnose on it.
Oh yeah.
So they had the bullnoses all made up. So they were just cutting off the top and then sitting the bullnose on top. So they were just cutting a little bit, cutting into as far as they could, and then they'd knock that bit off and then cut a bit further in and then knock that bit off, so they could cut all the way through with the grinder dead flat.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I've used that. So I asked them where they got those grinder blades from and bought them since then, and I've found heaps of uses for it. Because when we use a grinder, we're sort of cutting on an angle a little bit, and then you kind of go up a little bit. And right. But the flush cut ones are pretty good.
You got the hop on me, Joel, with technology.
Well, you can't. So when you say use a 9-inch, you're using like a 9-inch demo saw, aren't you?
We're using, we don't use, that's right, 9-inch demo, correct.
So you couldn't use this one. You couldn't use this one for a wet cut. So you got a dry cut with it, which is, like you say, is not ideal.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it was on your Instagram, but have you got one of those Recipro saws that are masonry one?
Yeah, it would have been on mine. Yeah, we use the only Recipro worth using is the Arbitech, and
that's it.
It was a game changer then, and it still is now.
Yeah, that looks amazing.
Unless the mortar is really hard, in which case you just end up just knocking all the teeth off, and just tearing up money. But they're great. They're amazing. We're going to pull it out tomorrow. We're restoring a heritage bluestone building starting tomorrow morning in Fitzroy. So we'll be pulling out all the old lime mortar and repointing. So and that's its happy hunting ground. The Recipro. Yeah.
So how do you go when people are looking to book you in, because your jobs take so long to do a lot of the time, so they have to wait a fair while. So how do you only book out a certain distance in advance?
It's really tough. I imagine it's exactly the same for you.
That's why it's also a struggle to not grow too big, because you want to say yes and take on all these jobs.
It's the old story. Under promise, over deliver. It's just pure ego and hubris that causes people to under promise or to over promise and under deliver, obviously. So the best way I've found, and I'm going through that now. The phone's ringing. People are saying they've got their block of time. The only way to do it is to carve it up into blocks, and then obviously be up front with people and just say it's circa this time. It's it's around about this time. It's the best I can do. You're human. You're running a business. The building industry's got lots of variables, lots of moving parts. And as long as you're up front and telling people that you're going to make every effort to be there around about in that block of time, as soon as you start nailing down days and weeks, it's they've got to be flexible. They got to work with you. But I'm going through that at the moment, actually. You try and line your ducks up and get the weeks and the months ahead of you. Some of my jobs can go. I mean, we had one job that went for nearly 3 years.
Yeah.
And that affected that literally took me out of the loop.
Mm.
And it's a double-edged sword, when you work for really wealthy individuals who are effectively patrons, just like Michelangelo had the Catholic Church as a patron. The Catholic Church now has become rich people who have retired and want to do a lot of stonework or a lot of landscaping, and they're our market. It's just the high-end, ultra high-end domestic. And when they've got you, they sink their claws in. They don't want to let go of you. And without name dropping, I did that for 20 years with one of Melbourne's titans of industry. And man, it was hard to get away. When I did, people didn't know who I was. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's a double. You got to manage that, and that it's very seductive to have a patron. It's very seductive to have someone to say, "I will give you so much work, and you'll be with me," and and they want to own you. And beware, because that does not necessarily translate into massive remuneration. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's just an easy option.
Yeah. Sometimes it's better to roll a bit looser and be flexible, and not be driven to work, because I'm working for the rich famous person,
Yeah, because like you say, working for someone for 3 years, like prior to that, you've built your name up to have a good reputation, and then you've got to say no to everyone for 3 years because you can't do their job.
That's it. But like there's other guys around. You're not the only cake in the cupboard. So as much as we like to think that we are, but and one of the really important things, this is probably the most important aspect of running a business that I've found, is the network of like-minded individuals that you work in and around, that because they're like-minded, they have the same value set as you, and that you don't have any hesitation in recommending them. And then so a lot of your spare work you recommend to them, and a lot of their surplus comes back to you, and it really does reciprocate in that way, and it's a really healthy way. But you've just got to make sure that they fit the value set. And I've found that it's not a big club, man. It's only a small club, but it works. It does work. It works really well to have, and like people say, oh, we really want you to do this. I'm like, I just can't, but call blah, blah, because they can. And they're generally really grateful, and it works really well.
Yeah. When I was mentioning it to come on, I mentioned that I wanted to be a stonemason back in the early days, but where all the apprenticeships I saw were for kitchen companies doing benches.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
What do you think of that when someone says they're a stonemason and then that's all they've done?
It is stonemasonry. There's four disciplines. I've done it, right?
Yeah.
Bench tops are hard, man. The bench tops are, when you say, "Oh, I'm a stonemason," they're what's known as dimensional stonemasons. And if you've ever tried to polish a black marble bullnose, 99.9% of every mason in the world won't be able to do it without burning it. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Right. So it's dimensional stonemasonry is really tough. It's very, very, very skilled, and it is absolutely a bona fide sort of discipline and segment. There's four main disciplines. There's dimensional, which is like foyers, stone cladding, like ashlar stonework, polished foyers, bathrooms. There's monumental. That's the second one, which I've done a lot of. There's restoration stonemasonry, which is like carving, church resto, public buildings, that sort of thing. And then there's the weird, ugly cousin, which is building masonry, which is what I am. I'm a general building mason. So work quarries, tractors, sledgehammers, trowels, skill sets, formulas. That's arguably the most challenging. It's huge and endless. And that's my world, general building mason. Yeah.
Yep. So have you ever got the opportunity to build a church?
Oh God, no. There's James Charlwood is probably come closest in Melbourne. There's a couple of guys, Cathedral Stone. He's been the premier guy. Neil Skinner with O'Connor and Sons, Tim O'Connor and Neil Skinner. They're doing Parliament House. They have been for many years. I did my apprenticeship with Neil. they're probably the premier masons in Melbourne in terms of they've got the business structure to do that sort of thing. I'm still in, high-end domestic, ultra high-end domestic, whatever you want to call it. The rich bastards beach house market, that's what I'm in. But, it's a bit of a lifestyle thing. I still love driving my tractor around. And if you want to talk about favourite tools, it's my tractor. So, yeah. They're the four disciplines, but bench tops, don't ever discount them as bona fide stonemasons. They really are. But it's just in those particular skill sets are very particular to what they do.
Yeah. But I like more the romantic of using the old stone, and the stuff you do, I think, looks better.
That's it. Yeah. So, that's what got me into it, to be honest. The romance, probably I don't know that I kicked it off. I like to think that I was one of the first that got the whole dry stone thing going in Melbourne, but I was certainly one of the instigators of it all. But the thing that you and so many people fall in love with is the romance of the dry wall. They see it in the Welsh, Cornish, Scottish. They see these walls and they're like, I want that. I want that in my structure. And the challenge that I had when I wanted to push it in Melbourne was to take that sensibility, that thing that invoked all of this emotion, and then shove that, cram that into the Victorian building code, and stick that on the side of a building so that it was structurally sound. The thing didn't ship water straight through into the lounge room, but it still had that same sort of design or the same, the same visceral thing that people fell in love with, the dry stone wall. And making that crossover to a farm wall to a contemporary dwelling was really challenging to sort of just modify that wall so that it worked, but you still got the same feeling of it being a dry wall, all the things that people fall in love with.
Yeah, so many people will take that for granted about how easy it is to do now compared to what you would have had to go through in the early days of it.
That's you're talking about the building industry in general. People just take so much of it for granted. One of my best friends is a landscape designer down here and a landscape architect as well in Melbourne. And he's the passion and the love and the care that they put into it. I don't know, you guys are the rock stars in lots of ways. You get, people like, thanks, thanks, that's so beautiful. Like quite often we'd beaver away down some, forgotten valley, in the mud, building this stone structure, and then we'd leave. And then you guys come in and zhuzh it all up and get all of the love. But it's true, it's only really architects, designers, and informed people that understand what we go through to make it look as good as it does.
Yeah, that's what I like. I told my guys whenever they're apprentice early on that, and it's not a good thing for profit, but I want them to do things that landscapers would notice. So I don't care if the client doesn't notice it, but people who know will know. So that's how you build the right detail.
You got to impress your peers, man. Exactly. And that's it. There's a thing called the tyranny of history. Like history's looking at you. You got to make sure you get it right. But that's it. You got to do it as well as you can possibly do it, and not worry. And the money, for what it's worth, will come if the values are correct to start with. You just don't. You really don't come from a position. Obviously, you have to make a profit from the beginning, but it shouldn't be your primary focus.
Yeah. And do you find yourself critiquing other people's work? Like, because I am, as a landscaper, we're obviously not as good as a stonemason, even though we do stonemasonry work. And then there's different levels of everyone. Like everyone's at a different level of their quality. So I often find myself looking at stuff thinking I wouldn't have done it like that. And there's certainly reasons why. But so do you find yourself doing that, or just?
Oh yeah. But you've got to hold back. You can't It's so easy to diss someone else. And in fact, it's a bit of a sport here in Melbourne. I don't know about over in the West, but they're like, that's garbage. And it's in the eye of the beholder a lot of the time. And, there's a bit of a saying, one man's sort of rustic stonework is another man's unskilled stonework, So it depends what the brief is. It depends what you're trying to achieve. There's my Scottish grandmother used to have this saying. She used to about comedians. He used to say, you got to be canny to be daft. It means, like you got to be clever to be a comedian, and you've got to be in stonemasonry. You've got to, even if you're doing rustic stonework, you've still got to do it well. Even the old standard crazy paving, you can get crazy paving very, very wrong, as you know, and you can get it too right. It can be too anal. It's like aliens did my paving.
Yeah.
And so, so you've got to know what you're trying to achieve, how it fits the whole design sensibility. And then there's this whole structural aspect. The thing's got to stick together for 100 years. So, is your methodology correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a guy did crazy paving, and some of the joins were 90 mil between the stone, and it was just filled with mortar. So
but if the client wanted 90 mil, then he's doing good work. You know what I mean?
And then one time, I wanted our guys to do I wanted the gaps to be between 3 and 5 mil. Like I said, I don't care how long it takes.
Between 3 and 5.
Yeah. So I said, I don't care how long it takes. I just want it to be like that. And then at the end of it,
they all quit.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, but I looked at it at the end and thought it actually doesn't look that good. Like they nailed it. They did it exactly what I was after.
Yeah,
but it doesn't look as good as like a
It's that sliding sort of scale, and you've got to make bank at the same time as well. So if you're doing it on an hourly rate, the client can just go like, you guys are taking so long, this is costing me a fortune. Yeah. If you're doing it on a meter rate, you're like, you'll be coming in as the employer going, this is costing me a fortune. So, there's a lot of things to consider. Yeah.
I do a lot of things for Instagram though, so it's all worth it.
Exactly.
So have you got a favorite stone that you work with?
I do.
I thought it might be a hard question.
I wasn't sure what you'd ask me. I got to tell you, it's just so unbelievably flattering to have someone ask questions about you for one straight hour. Yeah. But I thought if you ask me anything, you'll ask me what my favourite stone is, and it is the indigenous limestone on the peninsula. It's the stuff that you dig up. There's no quarries. You can't get it. It's the best example of it's like a truffle. It's really hard to get. Got to wait till the earth moving contractors come across it. They dig it up. They take it back to the yard. Then we have to buy it from them. They sell it to the masons for hugely inflated prices. It's this unholy alliance that we have with each other. And then we have to then work that, block it down, split it down, and then turn that into a product, turn that into something that fits the design brief from the architect or whatever. But it's a beautiful, beautiful, soft, cheesy stone. It's really easy to work with. We use tomahawks, and it's a stone. It's got a lot of history. It's got a lot of provenance around it, and so it's what was quarried. They quarried the limestone to build Melbourne, to burn the lime, to make the lime putty, which before Portland cement was invented. So there's a lot of history there. The first structures in Victoria, in Melbourne, were the lime burners' cottages. They built dwellings to house themselves. So there's a lot of history with it. And when you get the chance to work with it, it's meaningful. And it's fun, and there's lots of, you can put your spin on it. There's lots of variations. You can get a bit creative, but you've also got to fit the brief. But it's beautiful to work with. Yeah, that's my favourite.
I wonder how similar it is because we're working in Point Lonsdale at the moment, and there's limestone there, and they're just kind of floaters. So it's pretty hard, but then once you get through it, it's just pure sand everywhere else.
And you can split the floaters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen? It depends. It depends what color is it when you crack it open.
It's white.
So that's the same limestone.
It makes sense because it's kind of just.
Can you hit it with an axe?
Yeah, it would. It's not easy to break, but
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we've been using it's easy to get through with a jackhammer, but not as easy with a crowbar. So
I'm just thinking you might be able to monetize it, because if it's something that you can, does it come up in like less than a floater, like small bits? Like does it appear in reefs or just floaters?
I don't know what the difference is between those two.
Is it like a solid shelf of stone, or is it like a float, just a free?
There's some pretty massive bits of it.
Pure, really white inside.
I think it's pretty white.
Similar. The same makes sense because it's literally the same bit of geography, just with the heads separating it.
Yeah. It'd be fascinating seeing all the different stone for all the different areas of Victoria because like you say, you go across one side or the other and it's a different stone.
different stone, different language, different skill sets, and have to learn it all again.
Mm. In terms of your techniques for laying and the products that you use, like for example, when you're using the dry stone cladding, what do you use to lay that?
For the dry stone, it depends what you like. Dry stone cladding, we do a bunch of dimensional stuff. So like 20, 30 mil bamboo stone, which is same but different. Instead of rusticated, it's sawn.
Yeah.
But the substrate's really important. So you've got to have compressed sheet. It's got to be gapped correctly, 5 mil gaps. You've got to have your Map Elastic Smart, a couple of coats of that cementitious membrane put on to waterproof it. That's if it needs it. If you're worried about water penetration's the thing that keeps everyone up at night.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, it's almost always a Mapai product, Maxi S1. If it doesn't need to be that flush, you can still go to just even a non-shrink, but generally a good flexible adhesive, Kerabond and ISO 50, ISO pure once you're over 3 meters. But once you really, really want to hold it, we go to Megapoxy. But not for the rusticated stones, not for the your Chinese sort of veneer stuff. Once we go to a dimensional stone, then we're into stone clip mechanical fixing using epoxy fixing, and that's a different skill set altogether, different methodology. Yeah, and that we're plus or minus 0.5 mil. It's ridiculously, the level of tolerance is just on an order of magnitude finer. Yeah.
And what about on the ground? Like, do you do much crazy paving?
Yeah, try not to, but it's the old story. You got to make sure your concrete's clean. You key your substrate. I bought a really expensive, a Soroto screed mixer. So it's a forced action mixer, a horizontal forced action rather than a cement mixer.
Yep. We
don't lay on wet mud. That's I learned there's a guy, Mick Morostica from Profile, is probably the best paving, flooring guy in Victoria, best guy I've ever seen. He taught me how to lay dry, so on a fluffy mix, and then we paint the back of the product, and then we trial lay the stone. So we lay it once, lift it, fill in any gaps, and then we pour over the top of that. So we literally flood it with our wash sand, cement, and water, and also planetcrete slurry. So we pour that over, and as soon as the moisture sucks through and it goes a bit matte, you're ready for your product. Then you lay that, and that literally fuses to your sand, and that you are jackhammering that shit up at the end. So we don't lay on wet mud. Yeah, that drums, that pops, that delaminates. You end up in all kinds of strife.
Yep. Yeah, because when I was Adam G, I was asking him from Anson about how they recommend to lay, and he mentioned that you do that.
It's one technique, there's a bunch, there's a bunch of techniques out there. A lot of guys screed. They'll go screed and then straight onto glue.
Yep.
And Mick that I was talking about from Profile, he'll do that as well. They're really good screeders, and they'll go to glue, but they're generally fluffy mix. They do everything in a bell upright mixer. I don't know how they do it. They hose the sand pile down so that he manages his moisture by hosing the pile. He just knows, right? I can't do it that way. I need a stupid, forced action mixer where you just literally bucket batch, and you can tell anyone, use those buckets, this much moisture, stick that in, and it's the same every time. So it just takes 40 minutes to clean the bloody thing at the end of the day. That's the only thing.
Yeah. That's probably a good thing that it's sticky, though, because it means it's going to be working for you how you want it to.
That's it. You don't want the phone call, man.
No. Yeah. We did a job where we were laying a lot of cobbles, and we got to go. So we do wet laying mixers, and we're working with some bricklayers, and they got one of their mates in who was a labourer for them on a couple of other jobs, and so he was doing some of the mixers. And then we found out the next day that he forgot to put cement in 3 of the mixers. So
I have been there, and we ended up we were building a winery, and we had oxide in the mud, so we couldn't tell that
oxide in this one as well.
And at the end of the day, and we had like 8 stonemasons working, right? It was like we were just like bluestone pitchers, and we were it was a huge day. It was a lot of meters went down. At the end of the day, we went to the shed full of cement, right? And we turned around to the labourer and we just went, "What's going on?" And he said, I put the white stuff in, and which was, and I'm like, "Oh, that's bad." And we chased him like up the highway, and he ran throwing brick hammers at him. So we had to pull it all down.
Yeah.
But we didn't know because it had lime in it. We just didn't know there was no cement. It was a bad day, man.
Yeah. Ours had black oxide in it, so again, you couldn't tell. There was
Can't tell. Yeah.
And I wasn't working when they found it out, but I asked one of the guys. I said, "How'd you know which ones?" Because they were just laid all over the place. I said, "How do you know which ones didn't have it in it?" And they said, "Because you just pull the paver up when it comes up because there's no cement."
So sad.
Yeah, it was on a driveway too, so it's no big deal. Doesn't need cement.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I've been there, too many times. Yeah.
Well, it's good. Yeah, I'm sure we're not the only two either.
No, man. Yeah. Well, that's all part of the learning process, but yeah.
Last question for you, Cam, is who do you think would be a good guest to have on this podcast?
Who do I think would be a good guest?
Yeah.
He would hate me saying this, but he is the most skilled stonemason in Australia. If you're talking about stonemasons,
yeah, well, I've loved this chat, so I'm happy to do more of it too.
Okay, he's quiet, he's reserved. He probably getting anything out of him, it may be a challenge, but this guy's done, and you have to take it from me. He's done more than any guy, and this is the guy. The guy that does it all and says nothing is Neil Skinner. Okay. From O'Connor and Sons. If you can snag him, I'll forward you his details offline.
Yeah, awesome.
But he is incredibly interesting. What that guy has been through and done. He's an incredible businessman. He's very, very smart, and he's ridiculously self-effacing. He'll just he'll make fun of you, and he'll divert the topic away from himself. But there's no one better than him that I've ever known in 40 odd years. Don't tell him I said that.
Oh, I've recorded this. I'll replay that for him at the start of the
episode. Don't do that, mate. Don't do
it. Cam, thanks so much. I absolutely loved having this chat because I love everything stone. So this was an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge.
I've loved it as well. And you're not beyond me poaching you, Joel. So just you might still get that call.
Okay.
And you should come and do a few days with us. You'd love it.
Oh, yeah, that does sound like an awesome thing. So, yeah, I look forward to it.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. Good on you, mate.